episode 4 now of Industry Innovators. Today we are here with an industry great, shall we call you, Vincent? So here with Vincent Halma. If people don't know you, I'm sure they do, but feel free just to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell people a bit about who you are and what you've done.
Yeah, good. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Cian, for inviting me to the podcast. Just looking forward to this. Yeah, I've been in the material handling and in the last years in the automation industry my entire career, worked with several major players in our industry. The last few years, really into also a lot of robotics. So I was looking forward to catching up with you here today and talk a little bit about our industry.
Perfect. Yeah, and we've seen such an interesting kind of landscape this year with Amazon retracting a lot of, work, almost $1 billion worth of work towards the latter end of last year. So, being in the driver's seat of a lot of companies, what challenges are you seeing automation companies face this year, and what advice would you give those struggling companies?
Yeah, I would describe the current phase as sort of the party hangover. So the COVID hangover that everybody is dealing with. On top of that, we are dealing with much higher interest rates than a few years ago. So that really, then the combination. Also, our customers are feeling some uncertainty. They don't know exactly what will happen. There's a kind of a reviving of retail sales versus e-commerce sales. So there's just a lot of uncertainty. So my advice to the players in our industry is really to focus on your core verticals. So really, customers right now, if they're buying something that really is high ROI, that really is a great solution, not a good solution. And so my advice is to really focus on your core verticals where you really have a good message and a great solution. But also, and as you may need to scale back in a certain way, step out of those verticals where you're not good at. And you see a lot of companies trying to hang on to that, continuing to lose business in those verticals. So that would be my advice.
Yeah. And what I guess specific examples, you don't have to name companies, but of technologies in verticals where they might not suit, can you kind of see this year?
Well, especially some of the larger players that used to serve like all the verticals. What you see now is that automation is becoming a lot more mainstream. There's a lot of new technology, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But if you look at some of the robotic solutions, for example, they are providing a lot faster and higher ROI than these traditional solutions. So what may have worked for a customer in any vertical almost like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago is completely obsolete today, or it's still a decent solution, but it's just a lot more expensive than what is offered today. So that's why I really advise everybody to really look at like what is the core technologies, what's happening in every vertical, but in detail, and are you able to really catch up with how and what you're offering.
Yeah, you make a great point there. There's so many kind of larger OEMs and integrators that have their own, say, mobile robotics product out of Europe or even native to North America, and then you've got companies like Geek and High that can come overseas, build a really strong sales team and division, and just kind of cut them on price and with a somewhat better product in some cases. So yeah, you make a good point there, specifically with the verticals.
No, exactly. And you mentioned the AMR space there. I think that is the best example where you see, a lot of companies made acquisitions, obviously, over the years. Some maybe in the AGV or even in the AMR space. But a lot of times these were niche companies. And then to take that niche product and trying to say, oh, now I'm a player in AMRs. Look at your competition. It's a different world out there now.
Yeah.
And your product may be twice the cost and that product, and a potential customer will need hundreds of them. So that's what I meant with verticals, and really seeing, you may have a product, but it may not be competitive. So that is really where the industry is just maturing right now, and that's just what companies need to become more industrialized in that respect.
Yeah, and I guess that brings us on to a lot of the challenges that you faced in your career. You've been in the industry in 2008 in various different crises of market. So I guess talking about why companies are struggling this year and what advice you can give them, flipping that back to you and your own management style, what is your kind of management and leadership ideology, and how have you reinvigorated, revitalized, and grown these organizations throughout your career?
Well, the number one thing you need to focus on is your customer. You see a lot of times companies in our industry are very technically focused, sometimes a little bit more inward focused. So, sometimes, of course, you need to go out there and try and get new business and do that aggressively, but only with the right solutions. So, going out there, like I mentioned before, it really is about the right technology and solution with ROI for the customer, but also focus on your existing customers. You see a lot of companies in our industry make that mistake. So if your existing customer always has changes that are needed, they need to be taken care of. And that is why within your verticals that you work in, you need to understand all the different solutions, because there may be a robotics company calling on your customer directly with a much more innovative solution than your ASRS that you installed a few years ago. And there's a lot of potential, for example, in retrofitting. You see that a lot of companies have invested heavily in automation over the years. Now they have learned, they know how it works, and they're looking for different solutions. They have SKU mixes that change all the time. Their D2C is different today than they thought it would be a few years ago, or they have personnel issues because now they cannot run their sites at full capacity